Willkommen zurück zu Let's Play Gabriel Knight 2, The Beast Within. Ja, wir stehen hier mit Grace im Wagner-Museum in Bayreuth und wir quatschen weiter mit dem Georg, diesem Studenten, der hier so ein bisschen auf das noch nicht eröffnete Museum aufpasst. Und dann fragen wir mal ein bisschen über Wagner. Achso, hier liegt übrigens das Wagner-Tagebuch und da gilt es dran zu kommen. Und ich glaube, Grace muss ihren Charme ein wenig spielen lassen.
Tell me about Wagner.
He was a character. He spent most of his life trying to convince rich patrons to subsidize his work. Unfortunately, he had expensive tastes. You see, he believed that someone of his genius deserved to live well. Can't argue with that.
But Ludwig II supported him, didn't he?
Yeah, sure, but Ludwig came along very late in Wagner's life. By then, he had already been run out of Venice and most major cities because of debt. Ludwig saved him. And the music. Best thing Ludwig ever did.
Okay, dann Wagners Brief an Ludwig.
Do you know anything about that letter from Wagner to Ludwig in the display case? The one about the diagram?
Ah, no. Some sort of equipment for Ludwig's theater. But I don't know why Wagner would have cared about this. If he was worried about any theater, you would think it would have been his own theater, here, in Bayreuth.
Okay, und dann Ludwigs Letter to the Conductor. Ich weiß gerade nicht, ne? Conductor. Ihr wisst es bestimmt.
Have you ever heard about the letter that Ludwig wrote to the Munich conductor in 1882 telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera?
You're full of surprises, for an American.
What do you know about it?
No one knows anything about it. It's like a treasure map, you know? It's probably a complete fairy tale, but it does make you wonder.
You have no idea what it could have referred to? Maybe something that Wagner was working on with Ludwig?
If there was, there's no trace of it. Except perhaps in the dreams of unemployed music students.
Ja, das war's erstmal damit, mit der Befragung, aber wir wollen das hier haben.
Cosima was Wagner's wife, I think. She probably just talks about him in her journal.
Wir brauchen das.
I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment.
Oder müssen wir echt erst mit den Dallmeier sprechen? Oder haben wir irgendwas? Nee, das ist die Adresse, also die Telefonnummer. Hier ist ein Buch über Wagner, ein Schraubenzieher. Wir können mit einem Schraubenzieher einen drüber braten. Oder das Ding hier öffnen. Nee, geht nicht. Was ist das hier? Ludwig muss... Ach so, das ist die Tageskarte vom Herr Museum. Können wir ihm das hier geben?
I'm not sure Georg would want...
Nee. Ja, dann würde ich sagen, fahren wir erstmal zum See. Wo geht's denn hier raus? Hier. Und, zum Todesort von Ludwig. Da treffen wir uns... Mir kommt gerade eine Idee. Ich will mal ganz kurz abchecken. Nicht, dass ich das später vergesse und wir nochmal hier rüber cruisen müssen. Ich hab's lieber am Stück. So, und zwar gibt's doch... Ich schau mal ganz kurz.
I wonder what kind of flowers these are.
Okay, wir müssen erst dahin. Dann machen wir das auch mal. So, jetzt bin ich...
At least I have the
Ach,
card.
ja, genau. Die Autoschlüssel, meine Gute. So. Egal, dann fahren wir jetzt erstmal dahin. Seeshaupt. Ist das echt der Todesort von Ludwig? So, hier im Hintergrund sieht man eine Kapelle. Können wir da schon mal hingehen? Zumindest können wir es anklicken. Und die Musik wird wieder leicht mystisch. Aha.
It's a memorial chapel.
Eine Kapelle. Okay. Dann gehen wir halt mal weiter. Und gucken, ob der Herr Dallmeier schon da ist. So. Na komm schon. Hier gibt's Oh. Hier gibt's doch diesen Pfeil, wo man... Ach, ist auch egal. So, jetzt gehen wir hier hin. Das Grab von Ludwig II.
This is where he died. You must be Grace. Herr Dallmeier.
Hello.
Joseph. I didn't mean to startle you. I wanted you to see it. I feel him here the most, you know, more than at the castle. So, what did you want to know?
Ja, so. Ach, wieder bei himself. Na gut, damit fange ich jetzt einfach mal an.
Professor Barclay says your hobby is Ludwig.
Yes. He was the last real king that Bavaria had. As a Bavarian and a history buff, that's enough to hook me right there.
But there's more, right?
He was a romantic, you know. A dreamer. And he was misunderstood, maligned. And
Sounds like you can relate.
me? Hell, I have it easy. At least I live in the 1990s. And not every eye in the country is on me. But yes, I can relate.
Was war das denn für ein Schrei? Werden wahrscheinlich Möwen sein, aber das ist so unwahrscheinlich an dem See. Naja, Ludwigs Tagebuch.
You know about Ludwig's diary, right?
Of course.
How can I get my hands on it?
I'm sorry. I have been trying myself for 5 years. They keep it locked up tight in the Royal Archives and they don't let it out. They must think it contains things that will hurt his image.
They won't let anyone see it, not ever?
Only one person outside of the government ever got to see it, a biographer, Sir Richmond Chapel. He had friends among the German royals and they let him look at it.
Did you ever try to contact Chapel? Pick his brain?
No? I don't believe I never thought of that. If you do and you find out anything, you must share.
It's a promise.
Ja, der Vorreiter von Facebook, hier, Sharon, ne? So, Ludwig II.
Tell me about Ludwig.
I don't know where to start. There's so much. Politically, the most significant thing about Ludwig II was that he signed over independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. Bavaria became a part of United Germany, and Ludwig became a figurehead prince under the Prussian Kaiser.
Why do you think he did that?
Bavaria had been involved in the 100 Years' War. People were tired of fighting. Prussia's push to unite the German states made some amount of sense. Still, Ludwig must have had other options. At the very least, he should have negotiated better terms.
So what was the real reason?
He was manipulated by Bismarck. At least that's what I think anyway.
Ja, hier geht's doch schon wieder weiter.
What about Ludwig personally?
You'll find two perspectives on Ludwig. The view the tourists get is the romantic ideal, Ludwig the tormented loner. Then there is the historian's point of view. Ludwig was plagued with guilt over his sexual orientation and was driven mad with self-loathing.
But I take it you're not buying either point of view.
Well, it's all too convenient, isn't it? That he was a devout Catholic, there is no question, and I'm sure there were pressures on him to be normal. But he was no prude. He loved Byron. Yes. Philosophy, the French court. If anything, Ludwig was too much an egomaniac. He didn't give a damn what anyone thought. And besides, he didn't try to hide any of his relationships. If he suffered from anything in his romantic life, it was disillusionment. No one loved him back as purely as he himself loved.
Well, if it wasn't sexual guilt that tormented him, what was it?
I don't know. His diary was filled with self-guilt, but I'm sure it's not about that. If I knew, I'd write my own book, set the record straight, so to speak.
Ja, jetzt haben wir ein bisschen was über Ludwig noch erfahren. Über seine Vorlieben und so. Und Was zum Teufel macht Bismarck da jetzt? Naja, egal. Hier geht's jetzt erstmal um die mitternächtlichen Ausflüge mit der Kutsche.
Have you read anything about Ludwig's midnight sleigh rides?
Oh, would that have been something? To be out at night and suddenly see him sweep by with his entourage? They say the night agitated Ludwig, and that being outdoors and the rushing feeling of the sleigh calmed him down. Sometimes even the sleigh wasn't enough. He would stop in some remote woods, order his servants to stay put, and go wandering off by himself for hours. It drove the servants crazy.
Okay, Okay, Bismarck.
Tell me about Bismarck.
Oh, Bismarck. He was the Prussian Kaiser's chancellor. Not a nice man. Bismarck had a reputation for learning people's weaknesses and manipulating them. It's a matter of record that he had spies on Ludwig's staff. He may even have had a henchman even closer to the king. And he was involved in the conspiracy to declare Ludwig insane.
Okay, also Bismarck manipuliert die Schwächen anderer. Egal, hier können wir... Ach so, hier ist der Hunting-Accident noch, also der Unfall beim... Egal, wir machen erstmal weiter mit dem schwarzen Wolf.
Did you find out anything about the Black Wolf?
I did. I'd read about him before, but I hadn't realized that was who you were talking about. His name was Godin, Paul Godin. I found a reference to his being called the Black Wolf after you telephoned.
I've never heard of him. Who was he?
Godin lived on the fringes of the Prussian court. He was handsome, charming, dangerous, or so they say. He was variously rumored to have been a foreign prince, a Prussian spy, even an assassin. Since you were interested in him, I found out some things that are probably true. It said he came from abroad in the mid-1800s, but claimed high German blood.
Do you know where he came from?
No. And he was ruthlessly ambitious. He probably found out who held the power, Bismarck, and offered his services. Bismarck was a good judge of talent, of that sort anyway.
Paul Guden? Hier tauchen wieder neue Namen auf.
What else do you know about Godin?
He must have done something remarkable. Bismarck was not a generous man. He liked to string people along with promises, but rarely came through. He did for Godin, though. He gave him a royal title and lands in 1863. And that was the last reference I found to him.
Well, how could he just disappear?
It's not that unusual. Back then, when you were given a title, you usually changed your name and moved to a place where no one knew your past, so you could act with impunity. Or be a pompous ass and get away with it.
Tja, Harry, geht's ja auch noch weiter.
Is there any way to find out what Godin was called after he got his title?
Is it that critical?
It might be.
Well, you could send away for a copy of the entitlement deed, assuming it has been destroyed during one of the wars. Godin's new name would be on it. But you would need a research permit from the government to access those records, and they can be very hard to get. A lot of red tape.
Great.
Ja, super, also einfach kommen wir da nicht dran. Egal, fragen wir mal über diesen Jagdunfall, seitdem der gute Herr wie ausgewechselt sein soll.
What do you know about Ludwig's hunting accident?
A couple of years ago, I was introduced to this great old man, a real old-world farmer. Well, his grandfather was Richard Horning, Ludwig's equestrian. Oh, he told some great Ludwig stories. Sometimes I get lucky. Anyway, he said that after the hunting accident, Ludwig got terribly ill, that he had a fever and was acting crazy. They were afraid that the wolf had been carrying a disease or that the bite had gone septic.
A wolf bit him?
Yeah, it's not so unusual. There were a lot of wolves in the Alps back then. The servants were really worried, but Ludwig recovered, physically anyway. Horning's grandfather said it was the fever that broke Ludwig's mind, that he was worse than ever after that.
Interessant. Ein Wolf hat ihn gebissen und seitdem, man munkelt, dass das Fieber ihn irgendwie verändert hat, aber ich denke, wir wissen alle, dass das nicht so ganz natürlich ist.
What do you mean Ludwig got worse after the accident?
Ludwig always had been a very private person.
But after the accident, he got darker, more crazy. Towards the end, he was even forcing his servants to enter his chambers bent over so they couldn't see his face. Horning's grandfather said his temper was fearsome. He would fly into a rage at the least mistake.
Must have been terrified of him.
Yes, well. Horning's grandfather felt sorry for Ludwig, and Ludwig hated his own violence. He was always giving gifts to his servants to apologize.
Okay, servants' fears.
You mentioned that there were other reasons why Ludwig's servants feared him.
Ah, that's another of Horning's mysteries. There's a story about Neuschwanstein. Apparently there was a period of time of 2 or 3 months when Wagner would come and visit him
Wagner?
there. Yeah. The two would lock themselves in the singer's hall. Horning's grandfather said the sounds that came from there were awful. Well, the servants had superstitious minds anyway. Some of them quit over it, just walked away.
What kind of sounds?
Horning's grandfather called them heartbreaking and ungodly. Maybe it was Wagner trying to sing.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's all for now. Thanks for your help.
It's my pleasure. And if you ever want to talk again, just give me a call. I'll meet you down.
I will. Thanks.
Servus.
Bye.
Ja, und das ist auch all for us. For now. Oder so ähnlich. Also, ich mache hier erstmal einen Schnitt. Hoffe, ihr habt die Infos soweit alle aufgenommen. Ach, das Viech wieder. So, und ich bedanke mich fürs Zuschauen. Hoffe, ihr seid auch beim nächsten Mal wieder mit dabei. Also, bis dann.